I spent 10 years building the Miller Group from the brink of bankruptcy into a publicly traded company. On the very day we rang the opening bell, Ava Miller publicly announced that her unforgettable first love would be the new general manager. While I was hospitalized from working myself to the bone for the company, she spent the entire night taking care of him after he sprained his ankle playing basketball. My heart turned to ash, and I finally gave up, but she begged me, "Don't go, I can't live without you. If you can't live, then don't." At the celebration party, Ava publicly announced the appointment of Diego Martinez as the general manager, with an annual salary in the millions. Immediately, everyone's faintly amused eyes shifted in my direction. Everyone in the industry knew I was Ava's boyfriend. I had poured countless hours of effort into the Miller family business, taking it from the verge of collapse to a successful public offering. From opening up new markets to planning major projects, I was the one who handled it all. As for Ava, all she had to do was stand there and be the chairperson. Now, suddenly appointing a new general manager to take my place was nothing short of a public humiliation. Unlike everyone else, Ava didn't seem to notice my embarrassment in the slightest. Her eyes were glued to Diego. She held his arm, guiding him around to meet prominent figures in our circle, occasionally looking up to smile at him with a shyness and admiration I hadn't seen since we were young. The atmosphere at the party was suffocating, so I took a glass of red wine out to the terrace. I drank it too quickly, and the acidic liquid burned its way down my throat, making me cough. "James, are you okay?" I looked up to see Carolina, the eldest daughter of the incredibly wealthy Graham family. I set my glass down. "I'm fine. Please," still putting on a brave face. Carolina sat down beside me. "She's walking all over you, you know." "That's none of your business," I retorted. As long as Ava was happy, I didn't care what anyone else thought. "You should consider coming to the Graham Group." "Not as long as that old man is alive," I said firmly. Carolina leaned closer, staring at me intently. "Their old flame has been rekindled. They're all over each other every day, and you can actually stand it? Ava is my girlfriend. I'll take care of her. You don't need to worry about it." "Still so stubborn," she sighed. "I don't understand what's so special about Ava. Her looks, her personality, her family background, her skills, none of it is on your level. Were you a masochist?" I clench my fists. "If you don't drop it, I'm not going to be so polite." All right, I'll stop," she said, raising her hands. "Same short fuse you had as a kid." Carolina poured red wine into her glass and mine before handing one to me. "Here, have a drink with me." I took it, we clinked glasses, and I downed it in one go. "James, since when did you get so friendly with the head of the Graham family?" The voice was laced with jealousy. I turned to see Ava standing a short distance away, holding onto Diego's arm. Carolina raised an eyebrow. "Ava, if you're not going to make good use of James, don't blame the Graham Group when we poach him." With a dismissive scoff, she turned and walked away. Ava watched her go with a look of displeasure. What did she mean by that? Is she trying to recruit you for the Graham family? "It was just small talk," I said, not wanting to elaborate. "I know you wouldn't leave," she said confidently. "The most she could offer you is a department manager role. Here at the Miller Group, you're a vice president. From general manager to vice president." I was left speechless. Diego smiled at me graciously. "James, we'll be colleagues from now on. I'll need your guidance after I officially start." I replied flatly, "That won't be necessary. I'm not in the habit of training my replacements." "I know you're upset about me taking your position," Diego said with an apologetic look. I didn't want this either, but Ava insisted that the company needed more high-end talent after the IPO. She asked me repeatedly, and I just couldn't refuse her. "High-end talent," I repeated, unable to stop myself. "Mr. Martinez, what major international firms have you worked for over the years?" A crack appeared in Diego's gentle facade. "James, I went to a lot of trouble to get Diego to come back, so don't cause problems, all right?" Ava snapped at me. "It's just the general manager position. Why do you have to fight Diego for it? I've let you be the general manager for 10 years. It's someone else's turn. Diego has a master's degree from a university overseas. It's not a demotion to be his second in command." "Ava, just say the word, and I'll step down from the general manager position, I said. But I will not be a vice president. It's bad enough being his stepping stone. I have no intention of being his subordinate. Ava and I were supposed to be getting married soon anyway. It would be better to just leave the company and focus on our life at home. Diego interjected. James, I just returned, and I'm not familiar with the business yet. If you leave so abruptly, it could cause serious losses for Ava's company. Diego, it's so thoughtful of you to consider my feelings, she said, smiling tenderly at him. My heart sank. In our 10 years together, she had always been spoiled and demanding with me. I had always assumed that was just her personality, but it turned out she was different with different people. James, you have to be the vice president, she commanded. I want you to hand over all of your work and resources to Diego within the next 3 months. Ava, I started. Don't you dare say no, Ava said angrily. If you're going to keep making a scene, then give Flower back to me. I don't want her living with someone so difficult. Fine. Diego looked at me with a triumphant smile, his eyes full of pride. Ava knew exactly how to control me. After 10 years together, I had always given in to her. Whenever we argued, the moment she brought up Flower, I would yield. Flower was a cat Ava had given me when we were kids. When I was 10, my parents divorced, and my mother left with me, taking nothing. I went from a privileged child to a nobody overnight, and my classmates constantly mocked and teased me. Only Ava never said a word. Instead, she secretly placed a tiny kitten in my school bag. It was a newborn, its fur messy and a little dirty, and it became my only companion for many years. Right now, Flower was lying in my lap. At 18 years old, she was the equivalent of a human in their 80s or 90s. I cherished what little time she had left, holding her in my arms whenever I was home. Flower was attached to me, but not to Ava. Ava didn't care for her either and would often snatch her from my arms and toss her onto the carpet. I bent down to pet Flower, let her go play on the floor. Ava, I said, we agreed we'd start preparing for the wedding after the company went public. What do you think we should set the date? Ava's expression became strained. There are still so many things to do. Let's just wait a little longer. All you need to do is choose your dress and my suit, I said. I'll handle everything else. Getting married, that's all you ever think about, Ava said, pacing the room irritably. Can't you think about me for once? Diego just got back, and he's not familiar with the business yet. Plus, we have 2 major projects in progress. How can I possibly think about a wedding right now? Don't worry. I'll help him get those 2 projects completed, I said, placing my hands on her shoulders to comfort her. Let's have dinner together tonight. I made your favorite sweet and sour sea bass. Ava pushed my hand away. I have a meeting with Diego and a client. You can eat by yourself. For the next 2 weeks, I worked with the planning department until midnight every single day. The client's deadline was tight, and on top of that, our proposal was being revised again and again. After Diego took over, every single planning proposal had to get his personal approval, and each time we submitted one, he would send it right back with the same note. This isn't good enough. Do it again. We submitted version after version, but nothing was ever approved. When we asked him what the specific problems were, he refused to say. Finally, Manager Collins from the planning department lost his patience. This is the result of my team, and I'm pulling several all-nighters, Collins said. We've honestly done the best we can. Diego replied, your best isn't good enough. I demand perfection. Mr. Martinez, just tell us what's wrong with it, and we'll revise it based on your requirements. You people have been doing this for years, and you can't even see the obvious problems? How did you ever get anything done before I came along? Diego's gaze swept over everyone in the room before finally landing on me. Manager Collins's face turned red with anger. The planning projects the Miller Group has delivered over the years have always been highly praised by our clients. Diego's face darkened. Are you implying that I have poor judgment? Manager Collins didn't answer, his silence a clear admission. If you think I'm incompetent, then you don't have to work for me anymore. Go to accounting, pick up your final paycheck, and don't bother coming in tomorrow. What are you talking about? Collins protested. I've worked for the Miller Group for years and have a perfect record. What right do you have to fire me? I'm the general manager, Diego said smugly. I can fire anyone I want. As they argued, Ava walked in from her office. What is all this noise? I could hear you shouting from down the hall. Ava, you're just in time, Diego said, looking crestfallen. I can't do this. I can't be the general manager. I think it's better if I just leave. Ava glanced around the room. Diego, what happened? Manager Collins and his team, they're all loyal to James. I can't manage them, he said. I'm sorry, I've disappointed you. With a single sentence, he had successfully shifted all the blame onto me. James, are you giving Diego a hard time again? Ava glared at me. I explained, Manager Collins and his team produced several versions of the proposal, and Mr. Martinez rejected every single one. We just wanted to know what the specific problems were. Is that really too much to ask? I just strive for perfection, Diego said. I want every plan to be the absolute best, to bring the maximum benefit to the company. Ava, am I wrong for wanting that? You're doing a wonderful job, Ava said, patting his arm reassuringly. You're just looking out for my best interests. Manager Collins was insubordinate and openly contradicted me in front of the team, which is terrible for morale. I had no choice but to make an example of him. All right, Ava said without a moment's hesitation. Collins, you don't need to come in tomorrow. I tried to plead his case. Ava, this has nothing to do with Manager Collins. It's my... Before I could finish, Ava cut me off coldly. The only reason he dared to defy Diego is because he knows you're backing him up. Let me make one thing perfectly clear today. This company is mine. If I appoint Diego as the general manager, then he is your superior. His words represent my will. Anyone who disagrees with him can be dismissed by him. That applies to every single person in this company. As she spoke that last sentence, Ava's eyes were locked on me. She was making it crystal clear to everyone present that no one was allowed to defy Diego, and that included me. In the end, Manager Collins was fired by Diego, who didn't even give him the chance to resign gracefully. Collins had been with me for 5 years. He was capable and loyal, and I couldn't just stand by and do nothing. On the day he left, I made a phone call. I have a very capable manager leaving my team. Do you happen to have any openings on your side? The voice on the other end replied, Anyone you recommend must be good. Tell him to report to our HR department tomorrow. After hanging up, I told Collins, if you're interested, take my business card and go to the Graham Group tomorrow. They'll set you up with a suitable position. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, Collins said, his dejection instantly replaced with joy. After all, the Graham Group was a corporate giant. Getting a job at a company like that was a rare opportunity. Before he left, Collins warned me repeatedly to be careful. The Miller Group is a mess right now. Ava is completely blinded by Diego, and you, the one who should be her king, need to watch her back. After seeing Collins off, I felt a dull ache in my lower right abdomen. In the early years of building the business, I often stayed up late and ate at irregular hours, which led to a case of chronic appendicitis. The exhaustion and anger of the past few days had caused it to flare up again. I was just about to take some pain medication when someone from the planning department came in to ask how they should revise the proposal. Just print out a fresh copy of the last version and send it to Mr. Martinez in a couple of days. Will that actually work? They asked. Just do as I say, I told them. If anything goes wrong, I'll take full responsibility. 3 days later, we resubmitted the exact same plan, and Diego sent it back again. The reason was still the same. Not perfect. Print him another copy, I instructed. A week later, Diego finally approved it. Everyone was completely exhausted from the relentless work over the past few weeks. I told them all to go home and get some rest while I put the finishing touches on everything. The long nights and lack of proper rest had made the pain in my lower right abdomen much worse, and tonight, it was particularly severe. I took some more medication, figuring I would go to the hospital in the morning if it didn't improve. Half an hour passed with no improvement. Instead, the pain intensified to the point where I couldn't even stand up straight. I clutched my stomach, realizing I couldn't wait any longer. It was already past 11 at night, and the entire office was empty. I dialed Ava's number. Ava, where are you? Can you come and get me? She sounded like she was outside. I could hear the wind whipping in the background. What's wrong? Why does a grown man need me to come pick him up? I don't feel well, I managed to say, sweat already beading on my forehead. Oh, where are you? Just as she finished speaking, I heard a sharp ouch from the other end of the line. What happened? Let me see it. Ava's voice was suddenly filled with anxiety. I think I twisted my ankle, Diego's voice said. Oh my God, is it serious? I'm not sure, but it hurts a lot. We have to get you to a hospital right now. And with that, Ava hung up, completely forgetting about me on the other end of the line. The pain in my abdomen was becoming unbearable, so I called Carolina. She rushed over in her car and drove me to the hospital. The emergency room doctor examined me and said I had acute appendicitis and would need surgery immediately. Carolina grumbled. You're a grown man and you still don't know how to take care of yourself. But despite her complaining, she was the one running around, paying the fees, and handling all the admission paperwork for me. I lay alone on a gurney in the hallway, aimlessly scrolling through my Facebook feed to distract myself from the pain. Just 10 minutes earlier, Diego had posted a new set of pictures. There was Ava talking to a doctor, Ava feeding him soup, Ava smiling at him, Ava resting his bandaged ankle on her lap. The caption read, "It's so wonderful to have someone who cares." My heart twisted in agony. For 10 years, I had been completely devoted to her, giving her everything I had. Loving her, caring for her, and protecting her felt as natural and necessary as breathing. I never expected anything in return from her. But in that moment, seeing her look of deep concern and her gentle smile, I suddenly realized something. She had never, not once, smiled at me like that. Her eyes had never held that kind of affection for me. What's wrong? Feeling jealous? Carolina had returned to my side without me even noticing. They've been showing up together at all sorts of events lately. I figured you'd be used to it by now. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I had no idea. Really? I just assumed you were willing to be her doormat because of your history together. A couple of nurses came over to wheel me into the operating room. Carolina held my hand and walked alongside the gurney all the way to the doors. Don't be scared, she said softly. Your big sister will be right here waiting for you when you get out. When I get out of surgery, I want some seafood chowder. You got it. I'll have my chef start on 2 king crabs right away. Despite the pain, a small smile touched my lips. Thankfully, I had someone who cared about me, too. Because of the post-surgery recovery process, it wasn't until the 3rd day that I was finally allowed to eat the seafood chowder. Unfortunately, a few innocent king crabs had already been sacrificed in the meantime. Carolina stayed with me in the hospital for the next few days, even finding time to go to my apartment to feed Flower. She postponed as much of her work as she possibly could, and for any urgent documents, she had her secretary bring them to my hospital room. When I was feeling a little better, I finally checked my phone. I was bombarded with hundreds of missed calls and iMessages, all from Ava. Before I could even think of how to respond, my phone started ringing. James, where are you? Why haven't you been answering my calls? She demanded. I just had surgery for appendicitis, I told her. I'm in the hospital. Oh, she said, her tone softening slightly. When are you being discharged? The client is getting impatient for that planning proposal. I haven't recovered yet, I said. The doctor wants me to stay for another week of observation. I uncharacteristically allowed a note of weakness into my voice. You're just lying around in the hospital anyway, she said. I'll have someone bring you a laptop so you can finish it up quickly, okay? The moment I hung up the phone, I couldn't deny the wave of disappointment that washed over me. Lying in that hospital bed for the past 2 days, I had kept telling myself the only reason she chose to go to the hospital with Diego that night was because she didn't realize I was seriously ill and needed her too. I told myself that if she knew I was hospitalized, she would have rushed to take care of me, just like she did for him. But reality was a harsh slap in the face. There was no concern, no companionship, just a work laptop. Ava arrived with Diego in tow. See? Diego cares about you so much, she said. Even with his injured foot, he still made the effort to come and visit you. Diego smiled at her. It's all thanks to your wonderful care these past few days. I'm feeling much better. He was just here to twist a knife, wasn't he? I had no desire to watch their little performance, so I just gestured for them to leave the laptop and get out. James, you need to hurry up with that proposal, Ava said. Otherwise, Diego is going to have a hard time explaining the delay to the client. My boyfriend is lying in a hospital bed, and all you can think about is a business proposal. In the 10 years we've been together, this is the first time I've ever seen you so concerned about the company's performance. I couldn't hold it back any longer, and my tone became sharp. Ava was stunned for a moment. It's just appendicitis. It's not that serious. I always thought you were so strong, so I figured it wouldn't be a big deal. She paused. What do you want to eat? I can bring you something tonight. Her offer softened my heart a little. Forget it. You go on. The nurse is here taking care of me. Then I suddenly remembered something. Hey, for the next few days, could you stop by my apartment in the evenings to feed Flower? A friend has been helping out for the past few days, but she's busy, and I don't want to impose on her any more than I have to. Okay, I get it, Ava complained. No matter what's going on, you're always worried about that stupid cat. It's just a cat. She was the first gift you ever gave me, I said. Of course I cherish her. Ava's expression turned strange for a moment. She then said she had to get back to the office and quickly left with Diego. I lay back on the bed, an inexplicable sadness washing over me. How little confidence did I have in our relationship that I had to resort to using our cat to test her loyalty against my rival. Just as I was lost in thought, Diego came back into the room. Is there something else? I asked. He stood there with a smirk on his face. James, you just mentioned Flower. That's the cat Ava gave you when you were a kid, right? Yes, I said. You could say she was a symbol of our love. He looked at me as if I had just told the funniest joke in the world. That cat was never a gift. It was just some stray she found on the side of the road. I can't believe you've been so devoted to it all these years. That's impossible, I said, sitting up abruptly. Don't try to drive a wedge between Ava and me. She told me the story herself. Your parents had just divorced, and the other kids were bullying you. Ava saw a stray kitten on the street, so she picked it up and stuffed it into your backpack. Then she immediately went and told the teacher that you had brought a pet to school. Think back, he urged. Didn't you get yelled at by the teacher right after that? Seeing my silence, his smirk grew wider. What you saw as an act of kindness was just her playing a cruel prank on you. So stop clinging to that memory, he continued. Ava never actually liked you. She only kept you around to fill the empty space I left. Now that I'm back, it's time for you to get lost. And I really must thank you for managing the Miller Group so well all these years, he added with a laugh. Just so you could hand it over to me. Diego left, but his words kept echoing in my mind. Flower wasn't a gift from Ava. It was just a prank she played on me. Even now, I can still vividly remember Ava smiling at me as the teacher pulled Flower out of my backpack. Back then, I thought it was a smile of encouragement. It turns out it was a smile of triumph. That single memory shattered my conviction in an instant. From the very beginning to the very end, it had all been nothing but my own wishful thinking. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, Carolina dropped me off in front of my apartment building. She had other things to attend to, so she left right away. As I opened the door to my apartment, a sudden, terrible sense of foreboding washed over me. Normally, whenever I came home from work, Flower would be waiting for me right by the door. Flower! I called out a few times, but there was no response. I rushed inside and found her in the corner behind the sofa. She was lying there, completely still, her body already cold and stiff. The 2 bowls for her food and water were both bone dry. Ava had never come to feed her. Flower had starved to death. I held her little body in my arms, shaking uncontrollably. The little creature that was once so warm and soft now lay stiff and cold in my arms. I found a nice shoebox and gently placed Flower inside, along with her favorite little toy mouse and her food bowl. I took the box to a nearby park, and under a large oak tree, I dug a deep hole and buried her myself. Flower, my companion for 18 years, was finally gone. She had been there through all of it, witnessing my gratitude, my longing, and my deep love for Ava. Her death severed the very last thread of attachment I had to Ava. The next day, I went to the office and handed in my letter of resignation. First you resign, and now you're breaking up with me? Ava shrieked. James, have you lost your mind? What do you think you're doing? Flower is dead, I said flatly. She starved to death. Ava froze, and after a long, stunned silence, she stammered, I've been so busy with the company these last few days, I completely forgot to go over and feed her. I reminded you at least 3 times. So what? You're really breaking up with me over a stupid cat. A stupid cat. I laughed, the sound bitter and hollow. Of course, to you she was just a stray cat, I said. A prop for one of your little pranks. What are you talking about? Ava asked, her eyes darting away for a second. Didn't you tell Diego the whole story yourself? I sneered. Stop pretending. Since you're in love with someone else, let's just break up. I don't agree, Ava said, her voice filled with fury. If we're going to break up, it will be my decision, not yours. And I'm not accepting your resignation, either. Whether you accept it or not is your problem, I said calmly. Starting tomorrow, I won't be coming into the office. And as of this moment, you are no longer my girlfriend. James, you bastard. What the hell is wrong with you? She screamed. I replied calmly, I'm not having a breakdown. I'm just completely and utterly done with this relationship. Ava, you like Diego, don't you? I said, I'm giving you your freedom. From now on, the two of you can be together without anything or anyone standing in your way. My years of tolerance and patience had made it impossible for Ava to accept this new version of me. Seeing me actually walk out the door, she flew into a rage, sweeping all the documents off her desk and onto the floor. If you walk out that door today, don't you ever think about coming back, she shrieked after me. I will never, ever forgive you. I simply waved a hand behind me, without looking back, and left without a moment's hesitation. It was just like Carolina had said. A relationship that brings you nothing but pain should be cut out, just like a diseased appendix. After resigning from the company, I packed a small bag and bought a one-way ticket to a small island in the Caribbean. For 10 years, I had worked myself to the bone. Now, lying under a clear blue sky, basking in the tropical sun and listening to the gentle crash of the waves, I felt a sense of relaxation so profound it was almost intoxicating. But the peace didn't last long. Less than 2 weeks into my trip, an unexpected visitor found me on the beach. It was Carolina. James, she said, her voice strained. I'm sick. I shot up from my beach chair. The last time I had heard those words was right before my mother was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. What's wrong? I asked, my voice trembling. After all, she was the only real family I had left in the world, biologically speaking, not counting the man who was my father. The doctors said there's a problem with my digestive system, she explained. If it gets worse, it could turn into colon cancer. How is that possible? I asked, shocked. You've always been perfectly healthy. Tears welled in my eyes and began to stream down my face. Don't worry, she said, trying to comfort me. It's not that serious yet. The doctor just said I need to stop overworking myself and get some rest. Okay, I said, wiping my tears. Then stop working. Stay here and relax with me. She shook her head. I can't do that. That old witch's 2 sons are always circling, eyeing the top positions at the Graham Group. If I step down now, my father will definitely put one of them in my place. The Graham Group is the legacy our grandfather built. I can't just let it fall into the hands of outsiders. If it wasn't for the company, I never would have stayed with that old man when he and Mom got divorced. But you can't risk your life for it, I insisted. I don't have a choice. Even if it kills me, I have to protect Grandpa's legacy. Unless, she paused, looking at me intently, you come back and help me. I studied her face for a long moment. Are you lying to me? Are you just saying this to get me to come back and work for the Graham Group? She pulled a folded piece of paper from her purse. Here, it's the medical report. I unfolded the paper and read it carefully. It was filled with dense medical terminology, but at the very bottom, the conclusion was clear: colon polyps. Seeing my confused expression, she quickly added, these aren't just ordinary polyps. They're a more dangerous type, considered a precancerous condition. You can look it up if you don't believe me. She sighed. Look, I know you hate our father. Ever since he and Mom divorced, you've refused to even see him. It's okay, I'll fight them on my own. As long as you're happy, I'll be at peace when I see Mom again in the next life. My eyes started to burn. Carolina, stop. I'll come back with you. Really? She asked, her eyes widening. Are you sure? I don't want to force you. You've sacrificed more than enough over the years, I said. It's my turn to step up. Together, we'll drive that old witch and her sons out of the Graham family for good. Good, she said with a fierce grin. And our father, too. We'll kick them all out. I pulled Carolina into a tight hug, feeling the warmth of family that I had missed for so long. I was so emotional that I didn't even notice the large X she casually drew in the soft sand with the heel of her shoe. Carolina and I were on the same flight back to the States the very next day. I took on the role of general manager at Graham Consulting. My grandfather had started his empire with consulting and strategic planning, so that division held a special, almost sacred position within the larger group. He had only one child, my mother, who had no interest in the business world. So he groomed his son-in-law, my father, to be his successor. But not long after my grandfather passed away, my father, Joel Graham, started having an affair. My mother couldn't tolerate the infidelity and filed for divorce. It was only during the division of assets that she discovered the truth. The company she was supposed to inherit was now just an empty shell. My father had systematically transferred all of its assets into entities under his family's name. My mother left with nothing but me and a heart full of resentment. She passed away a few years later, completely heartbroken. No one understood the depth of my mother's regret better than I did, and I was determined to take back what was rightfully ours with my own two hands. Thanks to Carolina's careful arrangements and my own established reputation in the consulting industry, my transition into running the company was seamless. As she was about to leave my new office, Carolina turned and asked, "Do you want me to go after Ava for what she did to you?" "No," I said. "I'll handle my own business." "You're in the same industry now," she pointed out. "You're going to cross paths eventually. Don't go easy on her." "Do I look like the kind of person who lets personal feelings interfere with business?" I asked. "I'm the one who built the Miller Group into what it is today. I can just as easily be the one to tear it all down." "Good. That's the brother I know," Carolina said, leaving my office with a satisfied smile. On my first day, I had Manager Collins transferred to my executive office. To say Collins was ecstatic would be an understatement. "Wow, I can't believe my luck. I get to work with you again, Mr. Anderson," he exclaimed. "Don't start celebrating just yet," I said with a small smile. "I have a very important job for you." I handed him a list of the key personnel in the Miller Group's consulting and planning departments. "I want you to contact every person on this list," I instructed. "See if any of them are willing to jump ship and join Graham Consulting. We'll offer to double their current salaries." "No problem at all. Leave it to me," he said eagerly. "Actually, I've already been in touch with a few people over the Miller Group. A lot of them are already looking for a way out. Diego is a total amateur who doesn't know the first thing about the business, and he just barks out random orders. One day he wants one thing, the next day he wants the complete opposite. Everyone over there is frustrated and completely fed up with him." I thought Diego was just targeting me personally. I mused. But it sounds like he treats everyone that way. Hasn't Ava said anything to him about it? He takes all the credit when things go right and blames everyone else when they go wrong. And the worst part is, Ava seems to be completely under his spell. She believes every word he says. "Excellent news," I said, raising an eyebrow. "Get those people over here as soon as possible. We'll set them up as a new, separate department, and you'll be in charge. Your sole focus will be to compete directly with Diego's team." "You got it. You can expect to hear good news from me very soon," Collins said. Eager for a chance at revenge against Diego, he left my office looking positively cheerful. I allowed myself a small smile. The Miller Group was in serious trouble. Just as I had anticipated, Diego's chaotic management style had created widespread resentment within the Miller Group. The staff in the planning department, most of whom I had personally recruited from other firms, eagerly submitted their resignations the moment they heard I was hiring at Graham Consulting for double their salaries. The most ironic part of it all was that Diego, assuming they were all resigning just to spite him on my behalf, approved every single one of their resignations without a second thought. By the time Ava got to the office the next morning, those same employees had already started their first day at Graham Consulting. Ava stood in the doorway of the now empty planning department, completely bewildered. "If you let all of these people leave, How is the company supposed to take on new projects? She asked. Diego replied confidently. Those people were all loyal to James. Now that he's gone, they weren't going to be productive anyway. It's better to just let them go and hire a fresh team. Ava didn't say anything more to him, but after work, she came straight to the Graham Consulting offices to confront me. James, what exactly is going on between you and Carolina? She demanded. Ava, what are you trying to imply? I asked. Were you already seeing her before we broke up? I sneered. Do you really think everyone is like you and Diego? Because that's exactly what you did, isn't it? Ava grabbed my wrist, her long fingernails digging into my skin. You quit the Miller Group, and the very next day, Carolina makes you a general manager? You help her steal all of the Miller Group's key employees. Are you seriously trying to tell me there's nothing going on between you two? Diego is a single man. He has the right to pursue anyone he wants. But while you were still with me, you were cozying up to the Graham family. You're the real piece of trash here. You're not even worthy of shining Diego's shoes. Ava, is that really how you see me? I asked, my voice quiet. My wrist ached from her grip, but the real pain was a sharp stabbing in my chest. She was my first love, the woman I had loved with everything I had for 10 years. When the Miller Group was on the verge of bankruptcy, Diego had abandoned her and disappeared for a decade, yet she never had a bad word to say about him. I, on the other hand, had stood by her side through thick and thin, and my reward was this venom. This was the woman I had planned to spend the rest of my life with. I looked at her and asked, do you have any idea what my last name was before I turned 7? Ava just stared at me, confused, with no idea what I was talking about. When I was 7 years old, my parents got divorced, and I took my mother's maiden name. Before that, my name was James Graham. I'm Carolina's younger brother. Do you understand now? Ava looked as if she had been struck by lightning, all the color draining from her face. I'm so sorry, she stammered. I had no idea. I was just angry. I wasn't thinking. The things people say when they're angry often reveal what they truly feel, I said coldly. So thank you, Ava. Thank you for personally destroying the very last shred of affection I had left for you. Ava's face was a mask of panic. James, I admit I was wrong about you. But I swear, there's really nothing going on between me and Diego. You made him the general manager in my place. You let him put his arm around your waist while you attended public events together. When I was in agony with appendicitis, you hung up on me so you could take care of his sprained ankle. If that isn't love, then what is? Stop lying to yourself, Ava. You already made your choice between him and me a long time ago. Her defiant posture crumbled as she began to plead. James, I know I handle things badly. Please come back. The Miller Group can't survive without you. Come back. I asked incredulously. You want me to come back and watch the two of you be all lovey-dovey together? I looked her straight in the eye and said calmly, Ava, we are broken up. From this point forward, we are strangers. Let's just leave the past in the past. True to his word, Diego hired a whole new team of planners at salaries well below the industry average. It wasn't long before a major contract came up for bid, pitting Graham Consulting and the Miller Group in direct competition. I put Collins in charge of the project. I'm giving you a chance to go head-to-head with Diego, I told him. Don't let me down. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, he said, practically vibrating with excitement. Don't worry, I'm going to crush him. Collins had been the manager of the planning department for 5 years and was more than capable of handling major projects on his own. He and the team of planners who had come over from the Miller Group worked tirelessly for a week and produced an incredibly comprehensive proposal. On the day of the bidding, Collins and I ran into Ava and Diego at the client's office. There were 4 other companies bidding on the contract that day, but everyone knew that Graham Consulting and the Miller Group were the 2 frontrunners. The presentation order was determined by drawing lots, and Graham Consulting was chosen to go first. Collins delivered an eloquent presentation, laying out a detailed plan supported by solid data. When the client's representatives asked a few follow-up questions, he answered each one fluently and with confidence. When it was the Miller Group's turn, Diego stood up to present their proposal. After he had spoken only a few sentences, I had to stifle a laugh. As the old saying goes, it takes one to know one, and it was clear he was a complete amateur. Diego's proposal looked like it had been hastily cobbled together from old, recycled plans, filled with generic data scraped from the internet that he was trying to pass off as new research. He seemed unsure of himself, frequently flashing that trademark charming smile of his at the female executive on the client's team. I could barely contain my laughter. Trying to use his charm in a professional bidding session. What a brilliant move. Ava, who was standing beside him, looked more and more displeased with every word he spoke. As expected, Graham Consulting won the contract. Collins came to me afterwards, beaming with pride. "So, Mr. Anderson, how did I do in my first battle?" "You were excellent," I told him. "Keep up the good work. You got it. You can count on me." It's a small industry, and in the months that followed, Graham Consulting and the Miller Group found themselves competing for the same contracts frequently. Collins, determined to prove his worth, consistently and thoroughly outmaneuvered Diego every single time. Eventually, Ava couldn't take it anymore and came to see me again. "You're the one who built the Miller Group from nothing," she said, her voice pleading. "Do you really want to just stand by and watch it collapse?" I responded calmly. "What exactly are you trying to say, Ava? You know Diego's abilities are limited. Why are you specifically targeting him?" "We're in the same business," I replied. "Competition is inevitable. It all comes down to who has the better team and the better strategy. James, even though we're not together anymore, you still own 10% of the Miller Group stock. Can you really just stand by and watch your own investment go bankrupt?" I had almost forgotten about that. Back when the Miller Group was on the verge of collapse, many of the original shareholders were desperately trying to sell off their stock. To stabilize the company, I had borrowed a significant amount of money to buy up those shares myself. I gave her two options. Either you buy my shares from me at their current market value, or I'll sell them to someone else. "James, do you really have to do this?" Ava asked, her voice filled with anxiety. "Let's not let personal feelings get in the way of business," she said. "You've always been so professional." "I agree," I said with a shrug. "And right now, I'm talking about business. Since you appointed Diego as the general manager, the company's performance has been in a steady decline. Purely for my own financial security, I no longer wish to hold on to my shares in the Miller Group." "But I don't have that kind of cash on hand right now," she protested. "Then I'll just have to sell them to someone else," I said. "But if you do that, you risk losing your controlling interest in the company." Ava was the largest single shareholder with 45% of the stock. I held 10%, and the remaining 45% was scattered among various other investors. If I sold my shares to a single buyer, she could easily lose her controlling stake, which meant the Miller Group would no longer be her company, and her position as chairperson would be in serious jeopardy. "James, I don't believe you could be that ruthless," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "Just wait and see," I replied. I immediately began contacting potential buyers to discuss the sale of my shares in the Miller Group. The news caused quite a stir, and soon, everyone in the industry was talking about it. Diego was terrified that if Ava lost her controlling interest, he would be immediately fired as general manager. He convinced Ava to use all of the company's available cash and even take out a second mortgage on her mansion in Beverly Hills to scrape together enough money to buy back my shares. From that day forward, I had no remaining ties to the Miller Group or to Ava. After I joined Graham Consulting, I learned that the Miller Group's rapid success in recent years was partly due to Carolina deliberately conceding business to them. The consulting firm had been founded by my grandfather, and after Carolina took charge, she had ruled it with an iron fist. She completely overhauled the internal staff, placing her most trusted allies in all the mid- and high-level management positions. Externally, she aggressively expanded the business, securing a solid foothold in the international market. Very few domestic consulting firms could even hope to compete with Graham Consulting. The one exception was when they were up against the Miller Group. In those cases, Graham Consulting would deliberately step aside, which is what had allowed the Miller Group to grow so quickly. However, now that I was in charge of Graham Consulting, the Miller Group would no longer be so lucky. I immediately split the planning department into two distinct divisions. The original Graham Consulting Planning Department would continue to focus on high-end international clients. The team of former Miller Group employees, led by Collins, would form a new department specializing in the mid to low-end domestic market. Collins, being the office gossip that he was, never missed an opportunity to share some juicy tidbits during his weekly reports. "I heard," he said one afternoon, "that Ava recently hired a new planning director from a firm in Europe. Because of that, Diego has been throwing a tantrum at the office every single day, turning the Miller Group into a circus." Apparently, the new planning director at the Miller Group was driven out by Diego's antics after only a month, and now their project proposals are a complete disaster, which is destroying their reputation in the industry. The word on the street is that the Miller Group is in serious financial trouble. Ava's mansion was repossessed by the bank, and she's living in a rented apartment now. And get this, Ava and Diego had another huge fight last night. She showed up to work this morning with two black eyes. I finally had to ask, "Do you have the Miller Group's offices bugged? How do you know every single one of these details?" Collins just laughed. The old planning department's group iMessage has basically turned into a gossip forum. The few old-timers who are still left at the Miller Group do nothing but complain in it all day long. "Is that so?" I said with a faint smile, gazing at the autumn leaves falling outside my window. I delivered a line worthy of a movie villain. "The weather is turning cold. I think it's time for the Miller Group to go bankrupt." The next quarterly financial report showed the Miller Group's revenue in a free fall, with losses in the tens of millions. The stock price plummeted accordingly. Panicked shareholders began selling off their stock in droves, and after several consecutive days of hitting the limit down, the Miller Group was facing the threat of being delisted from the stock exchange. It was a scene straight out of a decade ago, repeating itself all over again. And just like last time, Ava had no idea how to handle it. The last time this happened, I was there to carry the weight for her. This time, there was no one left to save her. And so, Ava thought of me again. She waited outside the entrance to my office building for 2 solid weeks, finally managing to block my car one evening as I was leaving. "James," she cried, "the Miller Group is going bankrupt. Please, you have to help me." "Diego is the general manager of the Miller Group," I reminded her. "You should probably discuss this with him." "That bastard," she cried. The second things started to go bad, he bought a plane ticket and fled the country overnight. "I can't get in touch with him at all." "Oh, I see," I said, looking at her through the car window, my expression soft. "Ava, this is the choice you made. Now you have to live with the consequences." "James, you can't be this heartless," she sobbed, clinging to my car window. "I know I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please, just forgive me this one time. James, without you, the Miller Group and we can't survive." "I'm sorry," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "I'm very busy, and I don't have time to help you. If you really can't handle it, then maybe you should just give up." My security guards gently pulled her away from the vehicle, and the car drove off. In my rearview mirror, I saw Ava collapse onto the pavement. She looked as though she couldn't believe I was capable of saying such cruel things to her. I wasn't lying when I told Ava I was busy. While her father was in the hospital for a minor surgery, Carolina had seized complete control of the entire Graham Group. She conducted a major purge within the company, replacing longtime executives with her own people in all the key positions. My father's wife and her 2 sons were desperate, and they fought back viciously. But Carolina had cleverly managed to obtain concrete evidence of their embezzlement of company funds, which she promptly presented to our father. In his younger days, my father had been quite the womanizer, but as he got older, he became more and more concerned with his own bloodline. Seeing me, his biological son, return to the family fold, he suddenly had no more use for his 2 stepsons. He was easily coaxed by Carolina into relinquishing his position as chairman and transferring the majority of his shares in the company to the 2 of us. Carolina was named the new chairperson, and her first act was to send our father to a very comfortable retirement community overseas. After dropping him off at the airport, she returned to the family mansion and promptly kicked his wife and her sons out of the house. The woman screamed and cried, cursing Carolina for being an ungrateful child and threatening to go find her father. Carolina just sneered. I sent him to a very exclusive retirement home in northern Scandinavia. If you don't mind the cold, feel free to go look for him. But even if you find him, it won't do you any good. The shares are in my name and James's name now. If he dares to cause any trouble, I'll simply stop paying the exorbitant fees for his luxury retirement home. Still defiant, the woman and her sons conspired to kidnap Carolina. But we were prepared for them. We set a trap, and the police sent the trio off to prison. 6 months later, the Graham Group was officially renamed the Anderson Corporation. That spring, on Memorial Day, Carolina Anderson, as she now called herself, and I went to visit the family graves. She placed a bouquet of fresh flowers on the headstone, and I set down a small offering of fruit. "Grandpa, Grandma, Mom, we've come to see you," Carolina said softly. I added, "We took back the company. The Anderson Corporation is thriving under Carolina's leadership. You can all rest in peace now." I turned to Carolina and said, "Sis, you've been working too hard. Let's go to the hospital for your follow-up appointment." Carolina looked at me, puzzled. "A follow-up for what?" "For your colon polyps," I said. She replied casually, "Oh, those. I had them removed right after I got the diagnosis. It's all taken care of. But you told me they were the dangerous, precancerous kind," I said, glaring at her. "You tricked me. You let me worry all this time for nothing." "Oh, my dear little brother," she said, putting an arm around my shoulders. "If I hadn't exaggerated a little, would you ever have come back to help me with the Graham Group? Your big sister isn't sick. You should be happy about that. But you—" I started to argue, but she cut me off. "Hey, Mama's watching us right now. If you get angry with me here, she won't be able to rest in peace." I sighed. "All right, you win." I put my arm around her shoulders as well and smiled. "See, Mom? Even when my big sister lies to me, I don't get mad. We're a good team, your kids." The Anderson Corporation thrived under our joint leadership and became more successful than ever. One evening, a client arranged for a meeting at a high-end cocktail lounge in downtown Los Angeles. I never expected to see Ava there. To create a more relaxed atmosphere, the client had hired a few professional hostesses for the evening, and Ava was one of them. The moment she saw me, her eyes instantly reddened, but she fought back the tears, forced a smile onto her face, and continued to drink and make small talk with the other men at the table. When the evening finally came to a close, I was the last one to leave the lounge. As I was walking out, Ava grabbed my sleeve and refused to let go. "James," she whispered, "I know I was wrong. Please, please forgive me." She fell to her knees in front of me, sobbing uncontrollably. "You used to love me so much," she cried. "Every time I made a mistake, you could never even bring yourself to be angry with me. I've suffered so much, and I've been punished for what I did. I understand now. I know now that no other man in this world will ever be as good to me as you were, or ever truly love me the way you did. From now on, I'll be a good partner to you. I'll love you with all my heart, forever." "It's too late for that," I said. I pulled my sleeve from her grasp and lightly brushed it off, as if removing a piece of dust. "Ava," I said, my voice flat, "you no longer have the right to say you love me." Leaving her sobbing on the floor, I turned and walked out of the bar. I walked out of her world for the last time.